From the unit circle, the coordinate at an angle 0 is 1, 0. At an angle pi over 2 is 0, 1. At an angle pi is negative 1, 0. At 3 pi over 2, the coordinate is 0, negative 1. And at 2 pi, which is the same coordinate as an angle 0, or the coordinate 1, 0. So for the 5 key points, based on an angle theta 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. The first coordinate is for the cosine function. When we look at the first coordinate, those are the value of the 5 key points for the cosine function. So we have the number for the angle 0 gonna be 1, and then 0, and then negative 1, 0, and back to 1. For the sine function, gonna be the second coordinate, which is 0, 1, 0, negative 1, and 0. That's why we come up with the graph of the cosine function at those 5 key points as the maximum 1, minimum negative 1. For the cosine graph. And for y equals sine graph, the maximum is positive 1, minimum is negative 1. And at 5 key points, we have the function value at 0, up to 1, and 0, negative 1, and back to 0. To consider odd or even function, if you continue the graph more and more, it looks like the cosine graph has the reflection about the y-axis. And where the graph of the sine of an angle, it has reflection about the origin, or is reflecting to the opposite quadrant. With this observation, the y equals cosine theta, or the cosine function, is an even function, where the sine function is an odd function. To summarize, the even function gonna be the function y equals cosine of x, and the reciprocal of the cosine, which is the y equals secant of x. And the odd function would be the function y equals sine x and its reciprocal. Also, the y equals the tangent of x. If you recall the graph of the tangent, it has a period pi. And at x equals pi over 2, that one is the vertical asymptote, where the graph will go like approaching to this line, but never touch it, similar to the other part of the graph. And if you keep going with the same size of the period, so you have another vertical asymptote at negative pi over 2 if you extend it to the right side, to the left side. And then the graph will be connected to the other piece like that. Then keep going with the same pattern. So as you see, the graph of the tangent x is reflecting about the origin. Like you see the symmetrical of the graph like from the first quadrant and the third quadrant. So that's why y equals tangent of x is an odd function, and the cotangent is the reciprocal of the tangent x. Therefore, the cotangent x is the odd function as well. To use the property as an odd or even function to answer this example, based on the unit circle that provided, the cosine of negative 30 degrees is the same as cosine of 30 degrees. And I'm going to put a note over here. Since the cosine is an even function, cosine of negative x is the same as cosine x. Okay, the even function. With the even function property, cosine of negative 30 degrees is the same as cosine 30 degrees. So what we have on the unit circle, the cosine of an angle is the first coordinate. At an angle 30 degrees, the first coordinate is square root 3 over 2. Therefore, the cosine of negative 30 degrees is square root 3 over 2. For the secant of negative 3 pi over 4, secant is another even function because it's the reciprocal of the cosine. So secant of negative x is the same as secant x. So we can write this as the same as secant of 3 pi over 4. And since the secant is the reciprocal of the cosine, we're going to use this relationship and pick the number from the unit circle to answer it. Cosine of 3 pi over 4. 3 pi over 4 located in the second quadrant, and we can look at the first coordinate. Therefore, the secant of negative 3 pi over 4 is the reciprocal of the value negative 1 over square root 2. And then the final result of this, or the simplified form, would be negative square root 2. The last one, the secant of negative 120 degrees. Again, secant is an even function. So secant of the negative angle is the same as the secant of positive angle. The secant is the reciprocal of the cosine. Now we're going to look at an angle 120 degrees. 120 degrees is in the second quadrant, and we look at the first coordinate for the value of the cosine. Therefore, the secant of negative 120 degrees is the reciprocal of negative 1 over 2. Simplify the number to get negative 2 as the final result. The next set of the example, we use the unit circle and the fact that psi is an odd function. For an odd function, in the psi of the negative x is the same as negative psi x, and the graph is symmetric with respect to the origin. We're going to use the unit circle for this example and also use the odd function property. For the psi of negative 30 degrees, based on the odd function property, psi negative 30 degrees is the same as negative psi of 30 degrees. So then when we look at the unit circle, pick up the values where the angle is 30 degrees, but the psi is the second coordinate. So we look at the second coordinate for the value of the psi. In this case, we're going to have negative of the quantity 1/2, which is just negative 1/2 for the result of psi of negative 30 degrees. Part B, the cosecant of negative 3 pi over 4. Cosecant is the reciprocal of the sine. So then cosecant has the same property as the sine function, or another way we say cosecant is an odd function as well. So cosecant of negative x is the same as negative cosecant x. That means in part B, the cosecant of negative 3 pi over 4 is negative cosecant of 3 pi over 4. And then use the property that the cosecant is the reciprocal of sine function. The psi on the unit circle, we're going to look at the second coordinate at an angle 3 pi over 4. 3 pi over 4 is in the second quadrant, and we look at the second coordinate for the value of the psi. And this problem going to be negative 1 over square root 2. And it turns out to be negative square root 2 as a result of the cosecant of negative 3 pi over 4. The last one, sine of negative 120 degrees. Since sine is an odd function, so sine of negative angle is the same as negative sine of 120 degrees. We're going to look at the position that the angle is 120 degrees. 120 degrees in the second quadrant, and we look at the second coordinate. That means negative sine of 120 degrees is negative of the value square root 3 over 2. And this is our answer.